recording here. We will use a yoga block today, and if you don't have one, I will offer some other things you can do or some modifications, but if you do have one, these are great, and you can find them a lot of different places, even like CVS tends to carry them, TJ Maxx, or you can buy them online. All right, we're going to start in constructive rest pose. So that is on our backs with our knees bent. You could use a little head and neck padding if you'd like. And once you get into a position that feels good to you, just take a sigh or two. With the intention of letting go of tension, relaxing your jaw, feeling where you're making contact with the floor. If you're ready to, you can begin to breathe in and out through your nose, or you can continue to breathe out through the mouth. Inhaling, going wide with your inhale throughout your torso. Like last week, we worked on that umbrella breath. And then a long exhale, either out through pursed lips or out through your nose. Getting every last bit of air out. A couple more like that. Good, and now let's take the feet and the knees parallel. They may already be there, okay? And we're just going to do some pelvic rock. So let's exhale and press the low back down to the floor. So the back of the pelvis comes down, and then inhale and rock the pelvis forward so you've got space between your low back and the floor. Repeat. Now we're going to do our pelvic clock exercise, which is a functional core, which just means I'm trying to not build the six pack. The six pack isn't a real functional part of your core. By the functional core, we're meaning the deeper layers of the core muscles that are used to just stabilize your body in everyday movements. Okay. And so the pelvic clock exercise, if you just relax now, kind of come to the middle between those two movements, is as though you have the face of a clock on your belly here, and 12 would be above your belly button, 6 would be down at your pubic bone, and then 3 would be out at the left hip point and 9 at the right hip point. Okay, and so we were just moving. You can go back to the pelvic rocks you were just doing. You can breathe however you want now. So we were just moving between pressing 12 down when you press the back down and pressing and moving 6 toward the floor, which your tail is coming closer to the floor, right? Now let's come to the neutral, right in the middle. Now we're going to try to go from neutral to 12 o'clock 3 times, and then we'll go neutral to 1 3 times, and we'll move around the face of the clock like that, okay? And I'll say more in a moment. But when you're ready, you can get started going nice and slow, neutral to 12 3 times. Keep breathing. And then you're trying to go neutral to 1. So it might be tricky to try to get to some of these numbers. Your brain might not be connected, and then you go to 2 o'clock. May not be able to figure out how exactly to get to those areas. And so the couple of tips, you're going to try to keep your knees still and your butt muscles relaxed. Your butt muscles might try to clench just because you're not sure which muscles to use, all right? And really it's just happening automatically. I'm not trying to engage any muscles at all. I'm just trying to get this movement going. I'm on 5 o'clock now. You might be somewhere else. Now just notice what's easy to get to and what's more challenging. Now I happen to be at 6. I'm going neutral and then back to 6 a couple times. And then we'll start on that right side. So you go neutral to 7. Notice if it's easier on one half of the clock than the other, it might be. Again, try to keep your jaw relaxed, your glutes relaxed, your knees still. Okay, and whenever you get back to 12, just pause in the center. No rush, but when you get there, we'll try to trace the numbers of the clock. So staying on the outside of the clock, it's like I'm making a big circle around. I'm going in a clockwise motion. And then go counterclockwise, see how that is. Good. Okay, and then just come back to the center, rest for a moment, breathe in and breathe out. All right, let's step the feet about as wide as a yoga mat. Let's take the arms out to a T from your shoulders and begin to windshield wiper the knees side to side. Notice how that feels through your hips, through your knees. And then what I'm going to do is as I go to the right side, you might need to see me, you might not. I'm going to go to the right side and then try to bring my opposite knee, my left knee, up and over toward my right arm. And then I'm going to place that left foot back where it started on the edge of the mat and then take the knees over to the left. And I'll try to bring my right knee up and over toward my left arm and then bring it back. So we're just kind of rocking side to side. I am somewhat keeping my hand down on the opposite side when I do this. So I'm not like lifting my arm off, but you could lift your arm off if you need to, if you've got any pain through your shoulder or anything like that, feel free. Okay, let's do a few more of those. So we're twisting, windshield wipering, and kind of rocking around. Okay, now I'm going to, as I do it, as I come to the side, I'm going to try to straighten the top leg and kick the toes up toward my hand. Might not be able to get it straight, but that's just what I'm trying to do. Then kick it around to the other side up toward the hand. You might need to give yourself more room if you've got furniture in your way. A couple more of those. Okay, back to center. Good. This pause, you can bring your arms back down to your sides. Breathe in. And breathe out. All right, inhale. Let's take arms up and overhead. Exhale, bring your right knee in. Give it a squeeze. Good, let's make circles with that right knee. And then go the opposite way. So we were talking about some hip flexor pain, or what people think they might have some hip flexor pain going on. So when you come back to the center with your knee this next time, let's let go with your hand and just breathe in and let your arms be at your sides and breathe out. Good. Notice if you have any pain in holding the knee here. Notice if you can bring it in any closer. So sometimes when people have hip flexor pain, they tend to really stretch it. But usually it needs a lot more strengthening or maybe even a release, like a muscle release with massage or a ball. So from here, let's see if we can keep our arms on the ground and inhale as you try to straighten your leg up toward the ceiling. And then exhale, bend again and repeat. The hip flexors are the muscles that bring the leg closer to the belly. Bring the thigh up closer to the belly. So that's hip flexion when the leg comes forward. So right now we are in hip flexion the whole time. When our knee is bent or when our knee is straight, we are in hip flexion. Let's do one more. Okay, and then let's just bend the knee, foot to the floor. Take an inhale, stretch arms overhead. Exhale, let's bring the left knee in and give it a squeeze. Then using your left hand or not, you can make circles with that left hip. Notice how it feels on this side. Is there a feeling of pinching or soreness in and around the crease of the hip? Sometimes there's impingement in there, which is when one of the tendons, the psoas tendon typically, is just getting pinched in the front of the hip joint, which is right in this crease here. Okay, next time you come back toward the center, let's let go with the arms and just see how it feels to keep the knee there. Maybe bring it in a little closer if you can. Breathe in and breathe out. Good, and then we'll do some straightening and bending here. Inhale, straighten. Exhale, bend and repeat. Your ankle can be doing anything you want. It can be flexing, it can be relaxed, it can be pointing. A couple more. All right, bending. Let's place the foot down on the floor and just pause for a moment. Breathing in and long exhale. Good. If you got anything big behind your head, let's move it out of the way. And we're going to do some bridge poses here. So feet hips distance or a little wider on the floor, arms out to the side wherever they feel best, okay? You're going to inhale, press into the feet, lift the hips off the floor, engage the glutes. Exhale, lower back down. You can come up sequentially, like one vertebra at a time, or you can come straight up and down like an elevator with your hips. So this can give you an idea of how much hip extension you have. So hip extension is when the leg comes up behind your hips, right? We're lifting the hips to mimic that action here. And it also gives you an idea of the kind of mobility you have in the front of the hips, so in that hip extension. Now, pause and come down, and you can just get to a place where you can see me for a moment. So I have decent mobility in hip extension in the front of my hips. If I come up, you can see that I'm able to keep my tail tucked, right? I can lengthen my tail toward my knees. This would be an example if I couldn't keep it tucked, okay? So here's an example of what it would look like, and it might look like in you if you weren't able to keep it tucked. So you see how I've got my back, my low back, in somewhat of a curve, in a back bend. So my butt is dropping down. I'm not able to lengthen my tail forward. This is the opposite. This is not, right? It could be due to strength, or it could be due to a lack of mobility, okay? So those are the two things. You can kind of check in with yourself. You might come up for another bridge pose. And now let's really try to get that tail lengthening forward. So let's press the low back to the floor. So I'm lengthening my tail forward and up towards my knees now as I start to peel off. And I'm going to try to keep it that way. And maybe I can only come this high keeping it that way. That's okay. So check in and notice your range. Keep breathing. Good, and then just exhale, calm down. You could either hug your knees in towards your belly, or maybe a windshield wiper would feel better. All right, so see what you'd prefer to do. All right, so we're going to be coming onto our belly, and we're going to do a little bit of a release for the front here. And we're just going to use a rolled up blanket. You could also use a towel. You need it to be firm for it to work, okay? So if you're doing this on a recording, you could pause and get that. So what I'm going to do is I just rolled to my side, came up. I've got my blanket long or my towel, and I'm going to roll it up very tight so that it is a firm taquito, okay? If you've got too flimsy of a thing, of a blanket or a towel, it won't work. Okay, so the first place that I'm going to put this is I'm going to put this first on my thighs. So I've just crawled forward. So you'll see it's pretty high up on my thighs, like close to my hip flexors or the front of my hips, but not quite there. Okay, and I'm going to start by just kind of rocking side to side on it, loosening up some of the tension. You could use a foam roller for this part right here, but not for the next parts, okay? I'm just rocking on my thighs. And then I'm going to pause and bend a leg, then bend another leg, see how that feels. You don't have to be up on your forearms. You could be down patting your forehead. Good. And now I'm going to move that blanket up a little bit higher. So it's, let's see, on me, it's on my pubic bone and on the front of my hips. And I'm going to do the same thing, just kind of rock side to side. Notice how it feels. And now I'm going to move up a little higher. So it's still below my belly button. It's below my belly button, but now it's on my lower abdomen. It's like pressing right on my bladder, which I can tell because I kind of need to go to the bathroom. So if you have to go to the bathroom, please do. I'm going to stay here though. So what you've got here, and you can lower down if you're able to, and instead of going side to side, or you can for a minute, but then just breathe. See if when you breathe in, you can expand your belly. And when you breathe out, let go. So one of the hip flexor muscles runs at the it's in front of the spine, but it's behind everything in your belly. It attaches to like partially to T12, so part of your thoracic spine even, and runs all the way down to the thigh bone. And then it crosses out through the hip joint. I'll have to show you a picture next time. So it's a really long muscle. And it can just clench up, get all tight in there. Breathing in and out. So right now you're just focusing on softening all the abdominal muscles. So in your belly though, we're not really reaching this, but this muscle, we'd have to really get in there to reach this muscle, but instead we're trying to soften around it. So I'm softening my abdominal muscles. So first, you got your skin, you got some fascia there, and you got some layers of abdominal muscles. You have, of course, more fascia around all that stuff. You have your internal organs, like I mentioned, the bladders there. You've got your intestines all running in there, all sorts of stuff, right? Behind all that stuff, too, you'll find the iliopsoas muscle back there. Okay, now we're going to move that roll or move your body. So now the blanket roll is about right on your belly button. Come down again if you can. You don't have to come down. And again, we're just trying to soften. So you're breathing in, feeling the belly expand if you can on the in-breath. And as you breathe out, can you soften and relax? And repeat. Couple more. Okay, and then our last spot is we're just going to go a little bit higher than that. So above the belly button now, but below the ribs if you can. The top of my blanket is touching my lower ribs a little bit. And do the same thing. So this might be, you might have it positioned around where the origin of that psoas muscle is, depending on your placement. But of course, again, it's below all the stuff in the front of the belly. Good. Okay, now let's remove the blanket. You can always put it below your ankles if your feet are cramping up or getting tight, and just come back down for a moment. Notice how that whole area feels. Taking a breath in and out, and again. Good. And then let's come into Sphinx pose, either with elbows out to the side or up on forearms with elbows in. And now from here, I'm going to press my pubic bone down to the floor. So I'm doing what I was trying to do in bridge pose too. It takes a little bit of the bend out of your low back. And if you find that it's hard to press that pubic bone down to the floor, you might not have a lot of range in the front of your hips. You can just notice. Relax through your neck and your jaw. Breathe in and breathe out. Good, and breathe in and out. Good. Now you can come up onto your knees from here. If you can do it the way I'm going to show you, or any way you can. I'm going to bring one knee forward like I'm crawling, press into my forearms and come up onto my knees. We're going to be on our knees here for a little bit. So if you can't be on your knees, you can, first of all, you could pad them with a pillow or a blanket. Or you could mimic what I'm doing on your feet with a chair beneath your hands. You'll just have to do it a little differently. So I'm going to grab my block, okay, and I'm going to take it on the low height and place it on my sacrum, so just above the butt. So not the low back. So I want to see, I think we did a little bit of work with this last week maybe, or the week before. So this would be my low back, right? Not there, lower down. Okay, lower down on your sacrum. And you know, when we work with our teacup imagery, when we say we're trying to balance a hot cup of tea there, not letting it fall. See, same idea here. We're going to tuck our toes under. So try to get your toes tucked under back there. And we're working on trying to keep a neutral spine while hinging at the hips. And you guys with a little bit of hip impingement going on, or something you're not sure about, pay attention to how it feels in this as well, okay? So what that means, and you can watch me first if you want, I'm going to try to sit my hips close to my heels, or maybe all the way, without rounding my back. Kind of keep that block there and coming back up. Okay, and you could, of course, you could be on your elbows too, if that feels better. You know, if your wrists are bothering you or anything like that. Now we're going to try it a little bit of a different way. I mean, we're doing the same thing with the hips, but we're going to take the forearms down to the floor when you get back there, and then lift the elbows first, and then rise back up to your tabletop. So we'll go back, hip hinge. Okay, my knees are apart. I'm going to lower my elbows down, then lift my elbows with my hips back, and then lift up. Okay, one more. Go back, trying to keep that block there. If you have trouble keeping your block there, it's just due to your hip hinge range. It just means that you have trouble keeping in a neutral spine in a full hip hinge. Okay, now you guys are coming up. Of course, if you need a break, you can take it. I'm gonna put my feet flat now. Okay, so now my toes are down flat. Some people might need a blanket below their ankles. My knees are about as wide as my hips, maybe a little wider. I'm gonna do the same thing. Block is still there. It might be different with my feet flat. I'm gonna go back. When I get as far as I can in this hip hinge, I'm gonna bring the elbows down, then lift them back up and rise up. Are you holding your breath? Try not to hold your breath. Okay, keep breathing. So I go back. I'm really trying to lift that tail up, right? In this neutral position, not my chin, but my tail. Elbows down, and then elbows lift up, and then you sit back up or come back up. Let's do 2 more. Hinge back. Elbows down, elbows lift, rise. Okay, now this last time I'm going to change it. So I'm going to go back, elbows down. Now I'm going to try to just straighten my right arm out and lift the top of the wrist toward the ceiling so you're up on your fingertips. Okay, now bring that right arm back to bent. And now straighten the left arm and lift the back of the wrist toward the ceiling. Good, and now let's try to straighten both arms, if you can, with the wrist lifted up toward the ceiling. Relax your neck. Breathe in and out, and in and out. Good, you can take the block off your back and lower yourself or bring yourself forward and come back down to your Sphinx pose. So we were just in a lot of hip flexion. And now we're going to be in a bit of hip extension relative to what you just were in, okay? Pressing pubic bone down. Really, we'd be lifting the leg if we wanted hip extension, but you get the idea, relative to what we were just doing. All right, and then bring yourself back up. All right, we're going to now use our block again, and we're also working on the hip hinge. And the hip hinge, being able to come down in a neutral spine with hinged hips will help you with lifting heavy things. So you don't round to lift heavy things, and then as we get older, maybe you have osteopenia in your spine, and there can be little fractures in the spine that result from that, right? So we're trying to keep mobility to keep that from happening. So this time I'm going to take my block. I don't know how this is going to work, but I'm going to try it on its middle level on my thoracic spine. So like between the shoulder blades there, right? It's up in the upper back. Okay. And you can watch me first just to see what's going to happen. I'm just going to be doing a half of a bear get up. Okay, a half of it, and again, you could use the chair and just come down to the chair rather than all the way down to the floor. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna lift my knees off the floor, start to walk my hands back without letting my spine round, and see if I can come up to here, right? So if I rounded my spine, well, my block's not falling. It's like it has Velcro on it, but you get the idea, okay? I'm trying to keep it right here rather than here. Okay, I don't have Velcro, I promise. And then I'm going to try to walk back down. Try not to hold your breath. Keep breathing. Slowly lowering my knees. Okay, and then try it again. Try this a few times. See how it works in your body. Okay, so I'm lifting the knees, slowly walking the hands back. My feet and knees are the same width. I'm going to try to get to a little bit of a squat position here, hanging out. And then I'm going to come back down. Last time, we'll pause in that squat and hold, lifting knees, walking hands back, pausing in my squat here, neck and jaw relaxed. Inhale. Good, and exhale, and then you can stand up. Let your block come down. You can just set your block on your chair. We'll use it again in a moment, and swing and twist. So we were talking about some warm-ups for walking or hiking. And there are a couple videos. I will, this week when I send you the video library, to try to put those up at the top. You can always do a search, right? Control F and search for warm up, hike, or something like that, or try walk. This is one of them, right? We do this all the time. So this is a good spinal rotation, warm up, hip, etc. All right, come back to the center and pause, and let's just stand in mountain pose. Let your arms hang, stand tall, feel your toes, feel the balls of the feet, feel the heels of the feet. Breathe in and breathe out. Let's take the arms up. Inhale, reach up. Then exhale, let's take them out to the sides and down. Let's do 2 more like that, your own pace. Good, and then standing for a moment, letting your eyes soften. Feeling the feet press down as the top of your head reaches upward. All right, let's do another good warm up, which is that gets 3 joints here. So I'm tracing the perimeter of one of my feet. And as I do that, I'm warming up a bit of the foot, the ankle, the knee, and the hip. Now, if you were doing this right before a walk, you might have your shoe on, so that's fine. You won't get as much foot mobility action in there, but you'll still get the other joints, okay? And then reverse direction. Good, and let's stand on both feet. Notice the difference in the 2 sides. And let's do the second side. Okay, same thing. And you can look at your ankle. I know I often tell you this, and that is to help your brain see what is happening in your ankle. Like, are you getting to all the perimeter of the foot, or are there some sticky spots? Reverse directions. You know, is there pain in there somewhere in any one of these joints as you move? So you're just getting information, and the eyes bring in a lot of information if you have eyesight, right? And those of us present here today do. All right, so now come back to the center, again, noticing. All right, let's warm up the knees a little bit. So if you take the feet close or to touch, and we're going to circle the knees around in a circle. Okay, so really I'm moving my weight around on my feet, and my knees are also going in a circle. They can be any amount bent, right? So it just depends on how your knees feel, how bent they get. And then reverse those circles. So it's circling around on the feet. The knees are kind of grooving around. And you see how much I'm bending. Good. All right. Another good one here is holding on to something. So you can take the back of your chair or anything you've got, and making sure you're not going to hit anything. We're going to be swinging a leg. Okay. So I'm going to hold the wall. And this is what I would say would be one of the most important hip flexor warm-ups to do, and also get your hamstrings and hips as far as before going for a walk. Okay, it just warms up those muscles. Of course, walking compared to hiking uphill or running is going to be very low impact anyway, but there's nothing wrong with getting that blood moving, getting the joints mobilized before you go, especially if it's a cool morning. Good, and then you can just put that leg down. Notice the 2 sides, stand tall, inhale, and exhale. All right, let's do the second side whenever you're ready. Four, 3, 2, and 1. And then stand. Good, breathing in.
And breathing out. Good. Now let's just do some arm swinging. Yeah, so getting the shoulders mobilized. And you'll notice as I let my arms go higher, so I'm swinging them up, you'll notice that the twisting motion becomes more pronounced, doesn't it? Right? So when we walk, we don't walk with our arms like this typically, right? But when we walk, there is a rotational motion in the spine that could be limited by your own spinal stuff, right? So we want to get that spine loose and rotating every day as best as we can. All right, and then just letting the arms come down. You can shake them out a little bit. Let's inhale, squeeze the shoulders up, and exhale, let them go a few times. And then inhale, roll them up, and exhale, take them down your back. I wanted to show, I know that some of you had trouble balancing that block in the bear getup. So I wanted to show that with the chair. So let's grab our blocks again. And I'm gonna come back. We'll see if I can figure out how to show this correctly. So I'm coming back. My feet are about as wide as my chair legs, and my knees will stay that wide too, okay? Hinging at the hips means that the pubic bone goes back and under. Okay, so I'm going to hinge first, and then I'll let my knees bend so that I can get my hands to the chair as I place my block in that position, medium height between the shoulder blades. Okay, so now I've got my knees bent, but I've also got my hips hinged. And just notice, can you have a neutral spine here? Right? So a non-neutral spine would be like rounded, and still for some reason this block is like Velcro on my back, but the idea would be that it would fall off when you round it, okay? So you can try to keep it there, and it's not really a bear. Let's see if we can mimic it. So if you were to lean forward a bit, put your weight into the balls of your feet and into your arms, and then push back to this squatting position and just feel, and so I'm in a deep hip hinge. That means that crease is really pushed together, right, between my belly and my thigh, right? It's close. That's a big hip hinge. Good. I'm just kind of going forward and back. That's all I'm doing, right? So this would be another option rather than coming up from the floor, is working with this range, because I definitely see a lot of patients and clients that can't come to the chair without rounding. Their hip hinge is not there, okay? Or it might be pelvic mobility. There can be a lot of stuff. All right, so let's stand up. We're gonna keep using the block. Just stand for a moment. You can keep it in your right hand. Breathe in, stand tall, and breathe out. Okay. So now we're going to take your block and put the short end against the side of your head. And so I think several weeks ago we did this with the block against the wall. We did some neck activity, neck strengthening with the block against the wall like this. This time we're not going to be using the wall. We're just going to push hand into head, head into hand. So that's an isometric, so nothing's moving. It's a static thing. Contraction, okay? So you've got that pressure, so find that. And now I'm going to take my left hand across to my right ribs, okay? So it's over here. My feet are going to come close together, if you can balance there. Okay, now watch me for a second. What I'm going to do is exhale. I'm going to let my spine round. I'm going to keep the pressure with my head and hand. I'm going to pull my ribs over to the left as I round down to look to the floor behind my left foot. And then I'm going to come back up and twist to the right. And I'm pressing my ribs to the right. And then I'm going to exhale, pull my ribs down to the left, round my spine. Let your right elbow come around, but keep that pressure head to block to head. And then inhale, I rise up. And then I twist my torso to the right, pressing my ribs to the right. Let's do one more. Pull the ribs down, round the spine. Keep that pressure into block into head. And then rise up and press, keeping the feet planted. Good, come back to center and release. Notice where you felt it. I got some shoulder tension a little bit doing that. I think I wasn't focused enough for myself on block to head, head to block, okay? Because I'm trying to engage all these other places. So now we're gonna do the other side. Left side of head, block to head, head to block. Just feel that there, okay? Also, you got your arm up, so that might be my shoulder tension too. Then my hand comes around to those left ribs. Okay, I'm gonna inhale, stand tall. As I exhale, I'm going to round around, look down at the floor behind my right foot. And then I'm gonna inhale, rise up and twist to the left, keeping pressure into block and pushing my ribs around while keeping my feet flat. Let's do two more. And then when you're finished, coming back to center, let's place the block on your chair for a moment. Shake out the arms. Good, a couple of shoulder rolls. So you might have noticed, you might have noticed a lot of things. You might have noticed it was hard to keep your feet grounded and solid. Maybe you lost balance a little bit with all the turning. Could have had pain somewhere. So just noticing whatever you felt, okay? All right, now still with our block friend here. And this time we're going to take the block in your right hand and take your feet wide, okay? I'm gonna open up the left foot like warrior one. So kick the right heel back, okay? So left knee points open to the side, and like we did last week, let's get the knee lined up with center of the foot. Right heel kicks back. Okay. Now bending that front knee if it feels okay. Okay. Again, block into side of head. Same idea. A little pressure. Head to hand, hand to head. Now, for some of you, you might need to stay up on this bottom hand. If you're able to come to the forearm without doing this, you see the difference? Okay. Here I'm rounded. Here I'm extended. Okay. So decide if you should be up on your hand or down on your elbow. Okay, now from here, inhale. Now as you exhale, we're going to round the spine and turn as though your right elbow could come down and touch your left knee. It might be able to, it might not. And then as I inhale, I'm going to open my chest back up to the side, maybe even turn my chest a little to the ceiling, but without losing pressure, head to hand. Repeat 2 more times. Exhale, around, round as you bring the elbow around. Inhale, open up, feel both feet grounded. Last time. Good, now to come up, let's exhale, press into this left heel and rise up. Release your block down, close that left foot, open up the right foot, kick the left heel back, bend the knee, getting yourself set up. So your left block will come to the side of your head, but first figure out, should you be on your hand or should you be on your forearm, okay? And then get your block set up, counter pressure, okay, 3 times. Well, take an inhale here. Exhale, round. Elbow toward right knee. Inhale, open. 2 more. And 1 more. Good. Next time you open, pause for your exhale. And your inhale, keep pressing your head into your block into your head, and then press into that right heel. Come up. Block comes down, turn feet parallel, wiggle them close together. You can get rid of your block. Can't believe how fast this time has gone. Just kind of shake it out, either a swing and twist or hula hoops. I do want to show you one last warm up for the hips with walking. Now, of course, the hip controlled articular rotations that we've done so often weekly are great, are a wonderful warm up. Okay, so you can always do those. Check out last week's video, or I think it's even labeled on one of the videos, one of the other videos too. Okay, but for this one, it's different because we haven't done this in a while. You're gonna have support next to one hand. Okay. The other leg is going to be the leg moving. Doesn't matter which side. Okay. So from here, we're going to take our hip through kind of its full range, our hip flexor. So we're going to inhale here. Exhale, I'm going to drive the outer knee up. And then inhale, I'm going to step it back, bend the opposite knee. Let me show it from this angle. So like a warrior one, but then I'm going to bend the knee, tuck the tail, lean to the side. So it looks like this. Okay, and I'm going to inhale back up and exhale, drive that knee forward. You notice I let go because I didn't need it for balance. And I'm going to inhale, step back, bend the back knee, tuck the tail, lean, exhale, inhale back up. You don't need to do it with the breath. Exhale, drive. Inhale, stretch. So you tuck the tail. I just want to show what this looks like from the side. And you lean. And then I come up and drive. Okay, step back, tuck, lean. Good, this time we're just going to come up and then step forward. Okay, so we'll do the same thing on the other side. This is a really good warm-up because it takes you through your whole range with your hip flexor. Okay, so we start standing. You've got support if you need it. You also don't have to use it. I'm going to show it without it. So I'm going to inhale, stand tall. Exhale, I'm going to drive the outer knee up. And I'm going to inhale, step back, tuck the tail, and then exhale, lean to the side. Then inhale, back up. Exhale, drive. Inhale, back, tuck tail. Exhale, lean. Inhale, back up. Exhale, drive. Let's do 2 more. Remember, it doesn't have to be with the breath. So you want that back heel lifted when you do the stretch so that your hips can be square. So in order to get this this length in here, your hips need to be square. If you're open to the side, you're not going to, if your heel's down, your legs open to the side, you won't get that stretch or as much of a stretch in there. Okay? Good, you guys. Next time you come, just come through the center, come to standing. Notice how you feel. Do a few hula hoops. All right, now as we make our way down to the floor, I'm just going to get you in onto the floor before we close so that you can rest or do any finishing postures you might need to do since we're out of time, so that you might want to do on your own. You guys that are present here know so many because you've been practicing so long. And you guys that are more new to it, you could just get on your back and rest or do what feels good. So I'm going to try to come down using that neutral spine hip hinge. So practice that on the way down. You could use your chair like I demoed earlier. You hip hinge and see if you can keep that neutral spine, taking the hands down and lowering the knees and coming on to your back. You can use the chair or not with your legs over the chair or any stretches with the chair. So I invite you now to take some sighs, to check in with your entire body, just kind of scanning your body with your attention here. And noticing, is there anything that you still want to do as far as movement, stretches, yoga poses? Is there anything that you still need? Is there any tension present that would be encouraged to release by a certain movement? And take your time doing any of those and see if you can rest for at least a full 2 minutes. Like, just, you can even set yourself a timer. To really get into the relaxation response, it could take up to, 10 minutes.